So what would you say is your favorite sporting memory?
For me, my favorite sporting memory probably, um, thinking back basketball. I played basketball, lacrosse, and soccer all in college. But basketball was the first thing that I fell in love with as a sport. Don't tell any of the kids I coach, it's still my favorite. But yeah, basketball, my favorite memory. I was, I believe, a sophomore in high school, and I was playing on my regular high school varsity basketball team, and I was actively being recruited to play lacrosse in college. And the Tufts basketball coach, lacrosse coach, and basketball coach came to watch me play basketball, an away game in Cambridge. So it's probably like 10 minutes from them, and I was playing. They're showing a recruit in my office outside. I can hear them. They said
Oh, no
they said
way.
sorry, teacher. They said that's Coach Jay's office.
Trust
Um,
me, I know I've had to do so many recruit tours when I was like
yeah,
helping out in college and stuff.
yeah. But anyway, so I was playing so poorly.
Mhm.
Couldn't buy a basket, couldn't even like dribble a ball. Worst game I've ever played in, and we were fighting for the DCL championship, our league championship, and I distinctly remember, um, finally we're down one. For some reason, the ball ended up back in my hands with 6 seconds left on the clock, and I had no business shooting the ball because I couldn't shoot to save my life that day. And I was a little sophomore, senior passed me the ball, only senior on our team. Had no choice. Disgusting shot, banked it in. We won. We first time winning the DCL in over a decade. And it kind of, as a coach, like I'll tell my kids about this. Just because you don't know, just because you stunk for the first 38 minutes doesn't mean the last two can't be any good.
Mhm.
And so, it ended up working out really nicely. Had the chance to play basketball and lacrosse at Tufts as well. But yeah, so that's probably my favorite sporting memory.
That's like so interesting to hear about because like I know at least myself, I played a college sport too. So going through the recruiting process was really different for me, but I know that like pressure that you feel like especially you're not playing your best, but to be able to kind of like put that aside and just take care of like what needed to get done in the moment, and see how well that paid off. I think that's just
Hmm.
a really interesting story. Do you have any like professional favorite memories, like watching a sports team or anything?
Um, I would say, I play for the Israeli national team, so I kind of play on like with a lot of professionals in that like
Oh,
next
very
level.
cool.
Um, and this summer was the World Championship, so our version of the Olympics, like the World Cup for soccer. And
Mhm.
um, my favorite memory, oddly enough, was Uganda it was their first time having a team. Because lacrosse is not a super easily accessible sport, similar to softball. Like you need a lot of gear,
Mhm.
which costs money. And
Mhm.
so Uganda's first time they've entered the FIL, like on the Federation of International Lacrosse, and unfortunately they were not able to get their visas in time. So they were not able to compete. It was a big thing, some of their kids coming from war-torn countries, and the US wouldn't let them in. And I remember standing with every single person who was playing in the World Championships, without US because they're too good. They're somewhere else. But everybody, all the other 32 nations, and um, their coaching staff walked in, tears in their eyes, and everyone just gave them like a massive standing ovation. And to me, that was the coolest thing I've witnessed in my older years,
Mhm.
because it just exemplifies way more than putting a ball in the back of the net and keeping it out of the other side.
For sure. I feel like that's so interesting too, because there's only, I mean, a handful of people that get to experience something like that. And to
Yeah.
hear that, like, that's something that you've gotten the opportunity to kind of like see and be around is just so cool.
Yeah, it
And
was
now that
special.
you're a coach, is there any favorite like coaching memory that you have or like something that stands out?
Yeah, so I coached high school for 2 years. Whenever a kid commits, it's super special. You get a nice text from them, and some more than others just mean a lot. But coaching at the college level, one of my players was coming back from an ACL, and in the fall, we were like, okay, we'll let you take a couple draws in our last scrimmage kind of thing against Youngstown State. It was like October 30th, and she was like very excited. Like she hasn't played at all. She's not even like full go. And then we looked at our trainer and we were like, "Can she play offense?" And he was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, we'll put her in for 3 minutes." We put her in for 3 minutes, and Um, they ended up moving the ball really well, and all of a sudden she has it and she's about to shoot, and she let it fly and she scored, and I'm on the floor crying. Everyone's on the field,
Oh,
like, and she struggled a lot. She's been struggling a lot with an eating disorder as well as a result of things in her ACL. So we've really bonded in that regard. So it was like the coolest thing because I know
mhm.
how much extra work that nobody else really knows about had to go into that.
Yeah.
So
And
that was
that player athlete like mental that player coach mentality,
mhm,
like that relationship that you form, it could be like something very, very different per athlete. Like it's
mhm.
obviously you have different athletes that you treat different ways, but there's something about that like player coach relationship that is something that a lot of people who haven't played sports at a high level just like would not understand.
Yeah,
So that's really
yeah.
cool that you got to kind of help her through that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And, we're still fighting through a lot of stuff with her right now, but it was a really awesome moment
She's
for her
playing
and for
right now
everybody.
too.
Yeah, so she is back, but, still building up that muscle. ACLs
And
take
going
a lot
through
of
an
time.
injury too. Going through an
Yeah.
injury is so tough, especially at the college level, because like not that you not that you just see yourself as a college athlete, but I know at least in my case, it was like 6 hours a day. Like you're just going.
Yeah.
So it's almost like your identity, like that, you know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
what you do. So I feel like not having that is so crazy. And
Yeah.
that's why you need a coach to kind of like be there
Pull you
for you.
back.
Yeah, especially if she's not from around there, like she's out of
Hmm.
state in college. Like there's only a small support group that she has that's right there that knows what she's going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool.
You want me to go
That's
now?
kind of yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
everything I had.
I was like kind of keeping time and it said 5 to 10 on the assignment. So I was like,
Oh, perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
you're probably good. Awesome. So do you want to tell me about your favorite sports memory?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I told you I played softball. So I guess the one that would be like me as an athlete, I have two. I kind of have like a professional sporting memory and then just like me playing sports
Mhm.
myself. So I grew up swimming competitively since like the age of 3. And then that transitioned into softball. So I would like compete in swim meets and then like drive, change in the car and like go play softball. But when I got recruited in college, it was something different because I couldn't swim anymore. Like I would guest swim on the team at college, but because the team wasn't that good. So I
Okay.
could kind of just like sub in. But it was something that I didn't have that I used to have growing up like all the time. So it made me really just like dig my heels into like playing softball like 24/7, like all the time. That was so like the one sport I dedicated myself to. And I saw myself improve so much through like being an athlete in college and kind of
Mhm.
like working out and like getting fit and prioritizing that over not over school but like alongside it.
Yeah.
And our team had gotten better and better each year. So this past year we competed on our like it was our championships, so
Yeah.
it was like the Skyline Championships
Hmm.
because it was just D3.
I played
But
E3.
yeah, okay, so you get it. But I was a pitcher too, so it was like I was a starter for a while, and I actually had to go to a wedding for my cousin in South Carolina, and as a result of that, my coaches didn't want to play me as much because you know how sometimes
Hmm.
it can get a little messy. So it did. And it was really interesting because I had been throwing like the best I had ever thrown all throughout my 4 years. And we got to the championships. I was throwing, but they weren't having me throw like consistently. Like I wasn't starting games. I used to be like a starter for them. And that kind of made me fill this new role of like closing.
Hmm.
So we were in the championship game and they put me into close and we were down by 2 and it was whatever it was, but in my mind it was just kind of like, all right, just go out there and do your best and like show them why you were the starter and show them that you could do it again kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I was also a senior, so it was just kind of like could be the last time you're going out there, just like do it.
Hmm.
So I went out there and I threw 3 scoreless. We ended up tying it up and like winning, which was
Wow.
super exciting.
Yeah.
So that was just a really like impactful moment for me because like obviously I was a senior, I had something to prove, at least in my own mind. And being the person to kind of like not get it done, but to like show up for my team was a
Hmm.
big deal for me as far as a sporting memory that I played.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, what comes to mind for me, and I'm going to play devil's coach's advocate to you. And I played softball for a summer, broke my
Oh, did
ankle,
you?
didn't play again. I played baseball for like 6 years.
Oh, very cool.
Something like that. I actually currently have a broken ankle right now. I had surgery in December, but kind of funny
Oh
that I
no.
said that. I'm okay. But what that makes me think of as a coach is like, I'd say to girls sometimes, hey, it doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes the game. And to me,
Mhm.
almost, as an outsider with that mentality, closing is almost just as much, if not more of a compliment to your ability than maybe the kid who got the start. And I think a lot of times coaches who spite people for, hey, you went on a trip, you missed the game, like that's not
Mhm.
okay kind of thing. Um, they sneak you in at the end because it's like, oh, you played less minutes, but you played when it mattered. And,
Mhm.
did you ever think of it that way or, as almost a year out, kind of think of
Yeah,
it
for
that way?
sure. Definitely looking back on it, I mean, I still have a good relationship with those coaches. Like there's no like bad blood or anything there. But they had always, especially the beginning of last year, going out of our winter workouts into spring season when we were like really getting into it, they started me for like everything. And they've had those like sit down conversations where it's like, we're looking at you and we want you to
Mhm.
be our starter. We want you to be our first up, like all that kind of stuff. So then, and I had been throwing very well for, the amount of times I had thrown. So once I left and had to go on that, I was a bridesmaid in the wedding too. So it was like I can't miss it
Yeah.
really. But once I had to go and kind of like reevaluate my spot back when I came back was really difficult because like they almost like stopped regarding me. They like wouldn't ask me to go warm up. They wouldn't say they needed me for anything. And there would
Mhm.
be like 4 games where like I didn't throw anything. And it was
Yeah.
like they wouldn't even have me go warm up in the bullpen. So that was a little discouraging just because I was like, what happened? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not like I lost my abilities over
Mhm.
that like four
The
or five
one
days.
wedding. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was interesting. But looking back on it now, I think it was cool because I got to fill like a new leadership role on the team too. So like I wasn't the starter, but I was still, as far as like the pitching staff was concerned, like I was the leader of that part of the team.
Mhm.
And we're almost a team within a team. Like the pitching staff is its own thing, really. So taking on that new role as a closer, I feel like kind of just like made it more, I gave myself more variety as far as like what I could offer to the team.
Mhm.
So that was exciting.
As a student athlete, how do you, struggle with the mental aspect of that 4 games that they wouldn't play you? What was that like for you?
It was tough, especially in my senior year when I feel like I've worked so much towards it. And, they really had said in the beginning of the year, like, you earn this, you put in the work, like, we want you to have this. So it was tough once I came back and kind of like had to sit there for a little while. But again, like, it kind of gave me more that like silent leader role where like, I wasn't necessarily the one out there, but I was still cheering everybody on and I was still like, running lineups and helping everybody out. Especially the younger girls, how like they find a senior they connect with.
Mhm.
I had those too. So like I would help the young ones coming up that were like, what's going on. And I was like, you know what, let's not worry about it. Like, you got the ball today. So like it's on you. You got it, just focus and just trust your training and you're gonna get it done kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I just one more question. You mentioned earlier swimming was kind of the thing that you grew up doing, and then
Mhm.
it was swimming, going to softball, softball, going to swimming. A lot of athletes go through that as a young age, and most of them end up choosing. So, how did you choose? Because I never chose.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wishes I got to like do both because that would just be sick. And like, they both made me happy in different ways. So swimming was definitely a really intense environment growing up in it. We would have like 2 days all the time, no off days, maybe a Sunday here or there, but like you're still running, getting your cardio in even on your off day. And you peak at different times when you're a swimmer. Like there's different times where like kids are good. So I ended up being the kind of kid that like peaked at 10 years old.
Okay.
So like I got good when I was pretty young. So I was winning a lot when I was little, and it's an individual sport even if you compete in like an IM race or something where there's 4 girls and a relay, but it's mostly individual. So when that happened, I got moved up to the senior team and I would start having to go to swimming practices before school.
Mm.
So I would, get up at 5:30 in the morning, hit the pool, which was like 20 minutes away from my house, go to school with wet hair, and do it all again the next day. So as far as picking, my swim coaches kind of came to me when I would start having to be like, hey, I have softball practice, like I don't know if I can come or whatever. It was
Mhm.
never like I would never miss swim meets for softball stuff, but I would miss some practices for if I had a softball game. And my softball coaches were just happy I was playing because it was like little league at that point. It was just like get everybody involved. But swim was more intense. So it was basically like my coaches sat me down and they were like, hey, we think that you could do something with swimming, but like you can't do something with swimming if you're going to consume 50% of your effort to something else. And at that point, I don't want to say I was getting burnt out, but swim was a lot, especially on like on the body, but also on the mind. And being a young athlete, it was a lot. So I just kind of like sat down with my parents who have been supportive through like everything and told them that just like I wanted to play softball instead of swimming. It was just kind of a thing that clicked for me. And at the same time, I started pitching in softball. So that was another thing that like it's more of an individual thing. Like obviously you work with your catcher, but like you got the ball. So it's more of like it's on you kind of deal. And that's something that I kind of preferred as an athlete was that individual mentality, which was nice because I got to have that, but still be a part of a team.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,